Señoras y señores, bienvenidos a la Cumbre Mundial de Economía Circular 2021.
Es un orgullo para todas y todos nosotros, ciudadanos de Córdoba, ser anfitriones de este evento mundial y recibir como invitados a los principales referentes internacionales en economía circular y áreas afines.
Mi nombre es Natalia Barró y es un placer enorme contarles que más de 30 países de todo el mundo están siguiendo en vivo y en directo este evento internacional.
El mío es Sebastián Torres Marini y queremos darles la bienvenida a toda la audiencia virtual, a las autoridades presentes y a cada uno de los referentes de instituciones y organizaciones que van a acompañarnos.
Y como pueden ver, este es un escenario especial. Esta es una cumbre que va a marcar un cambio y que busca transformar la economía lineal en una economía circular. Por lo tanto, vamos a presentarles una apertura distinta, con una mixtura entre instrumentos tradicionales e instrumentos reciclados. Me refiero a la orquesta Jubips, quien va a interpretar a partir de este momento el himno nacional argentino. Wow, qué emoción, qué difícil seguir hablando después de escuchar
Very
las
hard
estrofas
to
de nuestro himno
continue
nacional
talking after
argentino,
listening to our
desde la
national
capital de nuestra
anthem from
provincia,
the capital
Córdoba,
of our
para todo
province,
el
Córdoba,
mundo, en esta
and
cumbre
to
que
the world
pretende
in this summit that
enseñarnos qué
intends
es
to
la
teach
economía
us
circular, y
what circular
justamente
economy
deviene de
is,
una orquesta
and
compuesta por instrumentos
a
tradicionales
band
e
that
instrumentos
is
construidos con
playing
residuos.
with
Es realmente muy
instruments made out of
emocionante y me quedé sin palabras,
garbage,
Sebastián.
and I'm
Así es, Natalia.
speechless.
Vamos a dar comienzo entonces con el
Sebastián.
desarrollo de
Natalia,
esta
we're
Cumbre
going to
Mundial.
continue with this
Señoras y
World
señores, a
Summit. Ladies
continuación
and
vamos a
gentlemen,
compartir
we're
con
now going to
ustedes
share with
el
you
saludo del señor subsecretario de
the
Asuntos
speech
Nacionales
of
del Ministerio de
the
Relaciones
Undersecretary
Exteriores,
of Internal
Comercio
Affairs for the
Internacional y
National Foreign
Culto de la
Relations,
Nación,
International
Fernando
Trade and
Rodrigo
Cult Department,
Asensio.
Fernando
Me da mucha
Rodrigo
satisfacción
Asensio.
participar en
I'm
esta
very
Cumbre
pleased to
Mundial de
participate
Economía
in this
Circular,
World
convocada por la Municipalidad de
Summit
Córdoba
of
y el
Circular
ente
Economy
municipalidad
organized by
Córdoba, junto a las
Córdoba and the
máximas
city
autoridades del
of
ámbito
Córdoba with
provincial
the
y
maximum
municipal.
authorities in the
Quisiera
city
saludar también al
and
intendente de
national
la ciudad,
level. I'd
Martín
like to
Zarzola,
greet Martín
y al señor
Zarzora,
gobernador de la
mayor of the
provincia, Juan
city,
Schiaretti.
and the
Asimismo,
province
quiero
governor,
agradecer
Juan Schiaretti.
especialmente
I'd like
a
to
la
thank
señora secretaria de Planeamiento,
Secretary of Planning, Modernization, and International Relations of the City of Córdoba, Alejandra Torres, for inviting me.
Nuclear gobiernos, organismos internacionales, redes de ciudades y empresas en este espacio
international
y alrededor de este nuevo modelo
organizations,
económico
cities
que busca
that
transformar
meet
los
around
patrones de
this
producción y
new
consumo de la
concept
sociedad
of
para
economy
lograr
to
un
change the
productivo
patterns and to reach
sustentable.
a
Es una
sustainable
causa que
production.
queremos apoyar.
It's a cause
Se
that we
trata de un
really want to
modelo que
support. It's a
redunda
model
en
that
la
is
generación de
redundant
empleo
in the
y fomenta
job
la
creation,
innovación
and
y
it
el
fosters
desarrollo tecnológico
development
a través del
and
uso
technological
más eficiente de
advances
recursos
through
y
the
reutilización
resources
de
and
residuos,
reutilization
lo
of
cual conduce, en
trash,
definitiva, a una mejor calidad
which
de vida.
leads to a better
Ello se
quality
torna
of
aún
life,
más
and
urgente
that turns
en el momento en
into
que estamos
something more
atravesando
urgent
en la raíz
when we are
de la
undergoing
pandemia
this
del
pandemic
COVID-19.
of COVID-19.
En efecto,
In
ello va en la línea
fact,
con los
that
objetivos del
is
gobierno
aligned
nacional
with the
en esta
national
materia.
administration
La Argentina busca hacia
guidelines
2030,
Argentina
según lo
seeks in
establecido en
2030,
la
according
segunda
to
contribución
that said in
determinada
the second
a nivel
contribution
nacional,
at national
presentada en
level,
diciembre del 2020,
submitted in December
implementada
2020,
en los sectores
implementing
industriales
in the
y
industrial
servicios,
sectors and
un
services
cambio
sectors
estructural
a structural
para la producción
change
sostenible,
for the sustainable
ello con la
production,
articulación del sector privado.
articulating the private
Asimismo,
sector
trabaja con el
and
objetivo de
working
generar
with the goal
la infraestructura
of
necesaria para que la
making
gestión
the
integral de
infrastructure that
residuos
is
sólidos
needed
se
so
realice
that solid
de manera
waste
adecuada en un marco de
disposal is
prácticas
done
innovadoras
adequately
y adoptando
with
mejoras
innovative
en el
techniques
consumo
and
y la producción
adapting
sostenible.
approaches in sustainable development. Our country
Contempla utilizar a la economía
seeks
circular
to
como una de las
use
herramientas
circular
disponibles,
economy
entre
as one
otras,
of the
para
tools
contribuir al
to
logro del
contribute to the
desarrollo
achievement
sostenible.
of sustainable
La Argentina realiza acciones
development.
en pos
Argentina
de
does
una adecuada
everything
gestión integral de
to
residuos,
have
desde
a
la perspectiva de la
comprehensive
economía
trash
circular y
collection
la eficiencia
and
energética.
disposal,
Ello incluye
with more
el
energetic
ecodiseño
energy
de productos
efficiency.
a fin de
The
extender su vida
eco-design
útil, la
extends
separación
the
de
use
origen
life
y el
in
fomento de la industria
separation
en reciclarlo,
and
la implementación
recycling
de
in the
prácticas
industry
innovadoras
by
y
using
tecnología para el
innovative
correcto
practices and
tratamiento de los
technologies for
residuos.
the correct disposal of
De la misma manera,
trash.
aborda la
The
necesidad de
same way
reducir
it
al mínimo la
approaches to
degradación
reduce
ambiental
the
resultante de la
environmental
fuga de los residuos en el
pollution,
medio ambiente. Lo hace con el
and it does
requerimiento de una
it
gestión
by
adecuada de los
requiring
mismos,
an adequate
especialmente en lo relativo a la
disposal of
gestión
that
racional de los productos químicos,
dispose
prevención,
chemical
a la
products in the
reducción
in
y a
a
la
good way, reduction and
reutilización de los residuos
reutilization of
alimenticios,
food
residuos
products,
plásticos y todos los
plastics,
productos a lo
and
largo
all the
de su
products
ciclo de vida.
throughout the life
Finalmente,
cycle.
quisiera
Finally,
transmitirles
I'd
que
like to
temáticas
tell
como
you
la que hoy
that
nos
topics
convoca
like the
de
ones
carácter
that are
internacional
summoning us
y que los
today,
gobiernos subnacionales
and that the subnational
detentan un rol
governments detect
protagónico, están
that they have a
alineados
key
con el
role
objetivo
around
de
this,
dotar de un
with the
fuerte
goal of
definitivo
adopting
carácter
a
a
federal
la política exterior
feature
argentina,
of the
una de
foreign
las más
trade in
importantes
Argentina. One of
premisas
the
de este
most
gobierno,
premises
por
in this
instrucción expresa del
government
presidente de la
by
Nación,
instructions
Alberto
of
Fernández.
the President of Argentina,
Agradezco
Alberto
nuevamente
Fernández.
la
I'd like to
invitación a
thank the
participar
invitation to
de la apertura de
participate
esta Cumbre
of
Mundial
opening
y desde
this
ya los
World
saludo
Summit,
y les
and
deseo una
I
buena
greet you
jornada.
all and I wish you all the best.
Allí teníamos entonces el saludo inicial.
So there we had the first speech, and of course there are many greetings, because it's a summit that is going to give us a lot to do and to work on throughout this summit 2021. It's not the only greeting that we have, Sebastián. We continue with this fantastic event, and we'd like to now invite Minister Fabián López to give us welcome words representing the government of the province of Córdoba. Good morning, everybody. I'm Fabián López, Minister of Public Services of the province of Córdoba. I come here to give you a warm welcome on behalf of Accountant Juan Schiaretti, the governor of Córdoba, in the context of this Circular Economy Congress. A few days ago, we had access to the 6th report of Group 1 of the International Panel on Climate Change, and after analyzing all the 14,000 scientific journal articles, they proved without a doubt that there is a challenge ahead of us, the effects that global warming is having, and what that means in our social economic life. Climate change with different features, the sea level dropping and temperatures rising or dropping. And that's the challenge we are facing. And in order to face it, and in order to mitigate the climate change consequences and adapting to that change where we have ahead, we have different tools such as circular economy, models that talk to us about the energy transformation, talking about the SDGs, the 17 SDGs by the United Nations, the Paris Agreement from 2015, what we know as bioeconomy, green economy, what we know as the fourth industrial revolution, circular economy, etc. For me, they are different faces of the same model, of the same challenge, and they all talk about the need of having coordinated actions, global actions, world-level actions, actions that have a lot of commitment, a lot of challenges behind, and with the will to transform this world and to change this world that has fed through fossil fuels to go into an economy that is using renewable energies. And that has to do with changing the way we produce goods and services, to go from a linear economy to a circular economy, and all that is related to transforming and enhancing our trash and transforming them into sub-products that create jobs, that move the economy, that solve energy liabilities and environmental liabilities, to make it sustainable, that embraces these challenges of climate change. And in order to do so, we agree that we need a cultural change. We need to work a lot on education. We need to work a lot on being more committed, more engaged in the public sector, in the academia, in the private sector, public sector. And in order to do so, we need things like this. We need to work more and better, and getting together, discussing ideas, having different types of suggestions, and at the end of the day, to be all here in summits like this one, the first summit, World Summit on Circular Economy. That is the challenge. We want to do it, and the way we do it in Córdoba, by listening to one another and working together, the private sector, the public sector, the knowledge sector, in models that we know that have to be more up-to-date to carry out this challenge. Therefore, I'd like to congratulate Mayor Martín Charllora and all the city of Córdoba for having embraced this challenge and having engaged into this. We are living such a sad situation as a result of the pandemic. The challenge that we have ahead after this ends, we have to start approaching it now. No more time to waste. So this is a very opportune time to organize a summit of these characteristics. In the name of the governor of the province of Córdoba, I wish you all the best during the summit, and I hope that it is worth to work with more common goals by having better challenges so that the generations that are about to come can enjoy the world and the planet the way we are enjoying it. Thank you very much.
A continuación, hará uso de la palabra el intendente de la ciudad de Córdoba.
Escuchamos al doctor Martín Zarzora.
Muchas gracias. Quiero agradecer a todos los que nos ayudaron a organizar esta Cumbre Mundial, a todos los utópicos que colaboraron con nosotros, pese a todas las dificultades que enfrentamos los argentinos. Y a pesar de ello, podemos generar este hecho histórico, este hito, para la defensa de nuestro ambiente. Gracias a los más de 60 expositores y disertantes de todo el mundo, a los que participaron del IATOM, quienes con su trabajo creativo e innovador potencian esta transformación cultural y especialmente gracias a ustedes, a todos los que están conectados, que ya son agentes del cambio. Y estoy seguro que esta cumbre nos va a nutrir de mayores conocimientos y experiencias para poder actuar en defensa de nuestro ambiente. Desde el lugar que ocupemos, desde el lugar en el cual estemos, trabajando todos juntos para cuidar nuestro planeta. Naciones Unidas acaba de emitir un SOS, un código rojo, alertando en virtud del aumento del calentamiento global. Dicho pronóstico nos lleva a consecuencias irreversibles, como la pérdida de la biodiversidad, inundaciones, olas de calor y otros efectos climatológicos que agravarán la situación actual. Es por ello que debemos actuar. Es ahora. No hay más tiempo para esperar. Debemos actuar desde el lugar que cada uno ocupemos, sin importar nuestras debilidades o limitaciones. Debemos actuar en defensa de nuestro ambiente, pues somos la primera generación que tiene clara conciencia que nuestro planeta se extingue en las condiciones para que podamos vivir en él de la manera en que lo estamos haciendo hoy, de la manera que lo estamos haciendo actualmente. También tenemos plena conciencia de que debemos seguir produciendo para poder seguir subsistiendo. Por ello es que ha llegado el momento histórico de cambiar el modelo de producción y de consumo, imperante desde la revolución industrial hasta nuestros tiempos. Adoptar un nuevo sistema socioproductivo a través de caminos alternativos como el de la economía circular, que nos permita proteger nuestro planeta y cuidarlo para que puedan vivir las futuras generaciones. Potenciar la transformación hacia la economía circular es adoptar un nuevo modelo productivo que aspira a transformar los patrones de producción y de consumo de la sociedad para lograr un sistema productivo de desarrollo sostenible, reutilizando los bienes
to transform them into raw materials, to bring them back into the production chains. Circular economy is an incredible advantage that leads us to a more resilient economic system that is more adaptable to the scarcity of natural and energy resources. And it also creates an opportunity with many jobs that are connected to green economy. To us, the shift of our paradigm not only leads us to reform old institutions, it also leads us to develop or to create new standards, new institutions under this paradigm that encourage the development of this social and productive model. For this reason, we created BioCórdoba, a municipal institution. The mission is to stand up for the environment, and the main objective is to encourage the development of circular economy. BioCórdoba, that has been working for 7 months, is the main engine of this summit. We also created the first school of circular economy of the country, also supported by the national government and the provincial government. And the main objective of the school is to train citizens and give them the necessary tools so they can be part of this green economy. We also started the first cluster on circular economy, gathering businesses, universities, private and public institutions in order to plan the implementation of public policies that create the necessary incentive programs and standards in order to develop this new economic model. We also started the Environmental Protection Institute, IPA, with the objective to control the main generators and encourage the proper management of waste that actually strengthen the inputs of our economy. We also started the first agency to control the environment. The agency is in charge of controlling the environment and also implementing the necessary penalties. We created also coils to encourage circular economy. For this reason, then we are enhancing our green centers. We encourage selective garbage collection. We inaugurated the first inclusive collection center we call EcoFriend. All of the transformers are women. We also created the first solid waste bulky center of our city, and in 4 years we'll be able to prevent sending waste to landfills. We'll also create the inter-municipal center with a public and private agreement. We can actually bring over 100 tons of residential waste to the circular economy. So with these two initiatives and other initiatives we're implementing, and if we added them in 48 months, 4 months of residential waste wouldn't have to be collected in our city. This is over 130,000 tons of waste that are not being sent to the landfills. We have understood that the pathway is circular economy. This is the pathway that leads us to sustainable development. We will not wait for the change to take place on its own. We will not wait for the world to change out of the blue. From Córdoba, we will encourage the change, and this World Summit on Circular Economy has begun to do so. Thank you very much.
Los invito a conocer Córdoba capital.
Let's visit Córdoba city, surrounded by hills, rivers, that invite us to relax and recreate.
Aquí la Córdoba histórica,
This is the
la manzana
historical
jesuítica
city,
declarada Patrimonio
the
Cultural de la
Jesuits
Humanidad
block
por la UNESCO.
that
Sus
was
iglesias y la casa
declared
donde
as
nació el primer
World
poeta
Heritage.
argentino.
The place
El
where the
diseño y la
first poet of
innovación
Argentina
tecnológica de
was
modernos
born,
edificios
technological
convive con las
innovation, modern
supermanzanas.
buildings,
Este
coexisting
nuevo
with the
paradigma del
historical
espacio
city,
público
this
para
new
disfrutar de
paradigm
nuestras
of
obras
public
emblemáticas,
spaces to
testigos de
enjoy
más de
the different
400 años de
buildings that have
historia.
witnessed over 400 years of history.
Una ciudad con intervenciones
A city
paisajísticas
that has
que incluyen
been
ríos,
intervened,
lagos,
including
parques y
lakes,
reservas
rivers,
naturales.
parks, and natural reserves.
Córdoba y su gente,
Córdoba and its
curiosa e
people,
inquieta, nos permite la permanente creación de empresas,
that allow us to
ser pioneros en la
continuously
industria
create
y el nuevo
companies
uso de
to
los
be
materiales.
pioneers in industries in reusing materials.
El nivel internacional de conocimiento
The
científico
international
asociado a la
level of
educación ambiental
scientific
nos
knowledge
impulsa a
related
convivir
to
en armonía con la
environmental
biodiversidad del
affairs
entorno
help us
natural.
promote biodiversity.
El cordobés vive en la cultura y el arte de su
People
ciudad.
from Córdoba
Se
are
reconoce por su
actually
calidez y
very
su buen humor,
involved in the
siempre
culture.
sacando una sonrisa al ritmo de un cuarteto. La Córdoba del
And
conocimiento
this
es
is
creativa,
Córdoba of knowledge that
comunitaria
is
y
creative.
ahora también
It
circular.
supports the community, and now it has
Bienvenidos a la
become
Cumbre
circular.
Mundial de
Welcome to the
Economía
World
Circular.
Summit on Circular
Ciudad
Economy.
de Córdoba.
City of Córdoba,
Argentina.
Argentina.
Bueno, Natalia.
Natalia, welcome now, and let's begin with our next panel, the new paradigm of circular cities, moderated by Guillermo Lobo, who's an Argentine journalist. Guillermo was born in Volcán, in Jujuy. He has a degree in environmental affairs from the University of Pompeu Fabra, Barcelona. He is the anchor of Todo Noticias, one of the most popular news shows in Argentina. He he began his career in Teleciencias, one of the most prestigious TV shows in Argentina. He is an editor in digital content and audiovisual content for Channel 13 and Todo Noticias. And the speakers are Martín Yayora, who's the mayor of city of Córdoba, Argentina, Horacio Rodríguez Larreta, who's the mayor of the city of Buenos Aires, Rafael Valdomiro Greca, who's the mayor of Curitiba, Brazil, Emilio Jatón, who's the mayor of the city of Santa Fe, Pablo Jauquín, he's the mayor of the city of Rosario, Upiano Suárez, the mayor of the city of Mendoza, and Carla Puguete Turrastiana, the mayor of Tuxtla Gutiérrez, Mexico. So let's begin with the World Summit on Circular Economy. Guillermo Lobos. Thank you. It is an honor and a great responsibility to be here in this chapter of the World Summit on Circular Economy. You can see on the screens in different languages, but the good thing is that we're actually dealing with the same thing, a better world with a sustainable economy, not linear any longer. And there are many things you get to know now on circular economy and circular cities. You will listen to different mayors, will be trying to convey a wonderful message. Let me introduce the host, Martín Yayora, who's the mayor of the city of Córdoba. Martín, welcome. It's great to be here with you. It's a great honor to have you here supporting this World Summit. I also like to say hello to all of the mayors, the attendees. We've been working very hard, and we all usually work with them. Also, congratulations on all of the speakers, and thank you for the support. I think that all of you have had a chance to meet. I'd like to share this message with you. Circular economy is here for good, and all of the work we've been conducting for a long time, different stakeholders of our city have created different sustainable production activities, and together, and with the support of this administration, this is encouraging to actually involve the community in this new production, sustainable production. Bio Córdoba has developed different activities with all of the production chain, and this is the first summit on circular economy that has gathered all of the businesses to create the first cluster on circular economy of our country. We have developed different agreements so that all of the waste from the companies can be reused. Different cooperation agreements have been created. And we started the first school of circular economy. So education is one of the main pillars in this process. Shifting from linear to circular economy requires the efforts of everyone. This is why we want to contribute to the welfare of our country as the host of the World Summit on Circular Economy. The main objective is to connect consumers and business people, and from Cordoba to encourage the shift towards circular economy to stand up for our environment.
Bio Córdoba with a huge challenge, a better society, a better economy. Martín, we are ready for your message. Thanks, everybody. And most of all, I'd like to thank you, as I said, for being here. We are totally convinced this is a decision that we have to make. Each one of us from our own place, we're all change agents. And each one of us in our own places, we need to make it possible to protect the environment and the planet and to preserve future conditions for future generations. We are convinced that the path towards sustainable economy is circular economy. And we're not only convinced by doing things like what we're doing today that foster this type of change, but also with video, with what we show in the video, with actual things that we do. We already have the Bio Córdoba entity because we think that it's key when you want to transform a paradigm, to go from one to another, not only to reformulate institutions that were already there and that focused on, and that now need to focus on new objectives, but we need to produce new institutions that would impulse this new challenge and that would face this new challenge to preserve the planet through circular economy. This entity has been in activities for 7 months, and now they are the key actor of this summit. They are the ones that created the first circular economy cluster that links, because circular economy is a change in the way we produce, but also in the way we consume. And we thought that we had to link all the sectors, enterprises, entrepreneurs, the academia, the government, the administration, so that from that cluster we could produce the public policies for the incentives to impulse. And sometimes you want to consume something, you want to buy, for instance, this table that is made in circular economy, and you don't know where to buy it. So to give them visibility, to help them financially, to create the rules and regulations. The office of this entity is built with all circular economy bricks and construction material. And then in this summit, we're going to talk about the development of a company that deals with trash, and with a public-private agreement. 100 tons of trash entered the circular economy every day, and that go to a system of fuel production from trash, and we prevent from landfilling 100 tons. If we think about the new transfer center, when you do it for 4 years, so it's like 7 months that you will not landfill, and it's a huge change. This does not mean that you reuse it, you recycle it, and that's that means that that asset has a new use as part of the consumption. We don't landfill those 100 tons, so we reuse them, and then it comes back to the system, so that trash comes back as an element, circular. It's exactly the concept, circular economy. We need to be really assertive and to make that decision, because here it's to be the key is to be assertive, not to think so much about our weaknesses. I want to thank all the utopic thinkers that helped us in these difficulties that we have in Argentina in the middle of this pandemic, to have this agenda of what's essential. A few days ago, UN issued a red alert, an SOS, calling for help, with all the negative parameters have worsened, and if we don't change now, the climate effects, the loss of biodiversity will be irreversible. So the decision we are making is not to wait for others to make that change, not to wait for the world to change, but from here, from this corner of the world to foster change. And that's what it takes. It takes decision making. That is the message from Martín Charjora, and we see that all the speakers in the panel were nodding. So we're gonna introduce is Rafael Bardomira Beca. He's mayor of Curitiba, Brazil. And I saw you nodding while Martín was talking about this need of circular change and circular economy. Good morning. I'd like to greet all my friends in this meeting. I'd like to compliment Martín Charjora, mayor of Córdoba, Jorge Larreta, mayor from Buenos Aires, Pablo Jatkin, mayor of Rosario, Emilio Jatom, mayor of Santa Fe. For us in Curitiba, southern city in Brazil, it is a great honor to be here with all of you. We're going to talk about the new paradigm of circular cities, or cities with circular economy. In order to do so, we have this idea of the program called Curitiba More Energy. 40% of the public building consumption in Curitiba will have to have solar energy. That is what we call a solar revolution. And we were able to do that with the support of the C40 network that supports development of projects that are devoted to reducing greenhouse effect emissions. Curitiba competed with more than 120 cities around the world to make sure that the resources were there, and we received confirmation of our support at the end of 2018. We have 439 solar panels, and our city hall saves 160,000 reais in power costs, which equals to 40% of the energy bill in our 29 de Marzo Palace. We also provide technical assistance for other solar projects, such as a solar pyramid in a neighborhood that is a popular neighborhood. The bus stations and the bus terminals have also solar panels. C40, Cities Finance Facilities, is a network program that supports these kinds of projects. Curitiba competed with more than 120 cities, and I dream with this idea of having a solar revolution. And that's why this pyramid that we're going to build is going to be in a sustainable place, in a plant that used to be a landfill space, and now it's been sealed. It's not used anymore as a landfill space, and it will be the solar pyramid in Curitiba. Another thing, we have 200 kilometers of bike paths, the active mobility network. It's called, the project is called Walk Better, to improve sidewalks and accessibility, and also for the bus stations with solar panels and all the Wi-Fi facilities, all the accessibility and mobility accesses. The idea is that 33% of the bus fleet has zero emissions for 2030, 100% up to 2050. And of course, we will be almost after a century. We will turn 100 years old. And we also see green spaces of urban agriculture, food that feeds the city. These farms, urban farms, are sustainable, and they work as a lab for local startups. There are 100 urban farms or hortages with more than 1.4 tons of vegetables produced every day that will go to a program that we called like soup kitchen program for people who are hungry, people who have needs during the because of the pandemic. We also give incentives to sustainable buildings. We are now building the first public building, smart building in Brazil, in an old industrial plant that will be transformed, and its use is going to change. Curitiba also has a great program with more than 100 planted trees per year, 100,000 planted trees a year, more than 60 square meters of green spaces per person. We are the capital city with the biggest natural patrimony in Brazil. And in the urban area, this is our program of Circular City. I am here to answer any questions, or if you want me to expand anything. And I'm really, really thrilled and happy to be here in this event. Rafael Valdomiro Greca, very interesting. Thank you so much. Now, Martin, you were jotting down what Rafael was mentioning. Yes, for me, it's a pleasure to be here, and congratulations, Rafael. They are absolute leaders. Curitiba, they are leaders in terms of environmental protection. They have been able to strengthen that. Congratulations, and it's a pleasure to have you among the panelists. Very nice presentation, Rafael. We will have questions for you, I'm sure, in general, and then for Curitiba in particular. Now we're going to Santa Fe. We are going to hear from Emilio Jaton, mayor of the city of Santa Fe. Emilio, let's hear from you. Great thing from Curitiba. What about Santa Fe?
It's very difficult to say something after Curitiba, to be honest. First of all, Martín, Pablo, Horacio, Carla from Tuxtla Gutiérrez, hi everybody, and Rafael from Curitiba. This summit is really a wonderful event. We need to share and reflect upon the things we can do and how we can contribute to circular economy. So that's why I'm so thankful for the invitation. The United Nations, as Martin said, issued this alarm, and so we are, he said orange, but I think it's a red warning. And I know that all of the mayors can tell us how they feel about it. Cities, and as you said, Martin, have a lot to do, many contributions that we can make. The linear economy model that we are accustomed to, that has treated nature as an input, is showing really, is really depleting. The fires in Cordoba and Santa Fe, all, you know, the water declined. We cannot continue producing and consuming and wasting without being aware. So the main enemy we have is using and wasting. And the program or scheduled obsolescence, we know that. So in Santa Fe, we're working to change the way we produce and use. So we're transitioning this gradual transition to more sustainable cities. We need to focus on the role of companies, what is shared, collaborative work. I think this is the only way, actually, to come up with a common agenda that actually focuses on circular economy. Cities can actually take advantage of circular economy, and it is the right time to actually plan the necessary legislations, and the right to actually repair is a pending issue. Santa Fe, there are some slides I'd like to show you to shift towards a circular economy. This is our priority. We're convinced that this is the way to go, and we have 5 main strategies: landfills that have been using for over 20 years, and we're now we receive waste from our city and 7 other cities. Even the landfills are not actually part of the circular economy strategies. We can have a better management of waste, and the goal is to reduce waste as much as possible to avoid landfilling. We have created an electronic device plant. So here we collect home appliances, telephones, cell phones. We disassemble them, and then we use the different parts. And in November, we're going to start a new center to actually train people, so everybody knows what we do with the waste and why it is important to classify it. We also started the first green terminal, we call it, or the first green center this is to collect all of the greeneries, the green waste. We'll also develop a carpenter shop so that people can actually learn to build furniture and learn to become sustainable. We've also started what we call the Eco Exchange. We have different recycling centers or recycling stations, and we have 9 different collection centers. These are where people can go and deposit their waste and also exchange the waste for other products. And finally, I'd like to share this last slide on what we call eco-neighborhoods. We have 11 neighborhoods in our city that have different selective collection centers and also training citizens. We have specific agents to train people in our cities. And we also share this common, we know, and for the present and the future, we need to have cities that are committed to fighting for our environment. And this is a good starting point to begin to work as a community. So the objectives are not only economic, they're also social. So we need to have circular economy as part of our everyday lives. We need to aim at a new way of producing and consuming and creating jobs. We need to create a new way of living. We need to create more transformative solutions. And I know that this World Summit is actually supporting for this to happen. Thank you very much. Emilio Hatton, thank you very much for your presentation. Emilio is a journalist. His presentation was really very nice. Martin, Emilio just talked about waste reduction, but also the benefit, reusing, right? Yes, of course. as Emilia said, we need to we need to there are two different actions. Some actions that have to do with circular economy, for example, waste selection, and return the waste to the economy. And there's another set of actions that have to do with preservation, that is, to preserve the environment. For example, solar energy, to modernize a system. We have modernized and digitalized the administrative system, but we're not sending notifications, paper notifications. We have created a model that is called digital citizen. So we are saving, so many trees, because we're not using any paper anymore. And so, but circular economy uses another thing, how, for example, a piece of wood, these green collection centers that the previous mayor talked about, how we can reuse this waste and reintroduce them into the economy. So we're creating an opportunity for green jobs.
Temas que tocaron Rafael y Emilio, desde Curitiba y desde Santa Fe. Y vamos a la hermosa ciudad de Rosario. Estamos comunicados con Pablo Hapkin, que es el intendente de la ciudad de Rosario.
Pablo Hapkin, who is the mayor of the city of Rosario.
Porque se habla de sustentabilidad, de proyectos y realidades.
Pablo, we talk about sustainability projects. Pablo, the floor is yours. Thank you, Guillermo, Martín, our host.
Beso muy grande a Carla, qué lindo Chiapas.
Carla from Chiapas, Rafael.
Ciudad que siempre nos ha enseñado y bueno, por supuesto a Emilio.
From Curitiba.
La verdad que estamos saliendo
de
una de las peores dificultades.
Going through one of the biggest challenges as a humanity this pandemic that has to be beneficial to some extent, understanding the limit we're facing, that is our nature, our environment is depleted. We cannot push forward anymore, and we need to become really aware of this. We need to change our way of living. We need to actually contribute to the environment so that we have to actually shift our model. And the second point I'd like to talk about is that has to do with our way of manufacturing and producing. If we cannot understand that a linear economy cannot really project sustainability a long time, so we'll come to a stop in the near future. So, and the cities are actually play a key role because we have decided to live in cities because cities are actually growing. And if we cannot actually help or kind of come into terms with nature, so our cities could not actually progress. So we're working very much, particularly on waste collection and waste management. Last week, we opened a new waste management plant or center. We are training the operators of these plants. We are also working in terms of green waste management and waste management in general, and we're also encouraging the private sector to work together with the private sector in this regard. We're also working on repairing landfills so as to avoid landfilling in the future. And the main goal is to actually
o al cual le toca en la cadena del mercadeo de la basura al recolector informal. Creemos que es fundamental
the waste management collection system and transition towards circular economy.
Esté a partir de un justo precio y entendemos que ahí como Estado
and we believe we still have a lot to do, of course. We're also developing a program that encourages citizens to selectively separate organic waste. We're working with specific neighborhoods. And the other key aspects we're working on is to work on the households and on the people to develop what we call green households. We need to become responsible as citizens to actually recycle and reuse a lot of the things we use on an everyday basis. And also mobility. We're also developing different programs. For example, we have a program that encourages people to use their bicycles and also share the bicycles. So we're working in this area as well. And I have to say that we have many challenges, and we're probably going through a lot of challenges, in particular, as Emilio from Santa Fe said, we having a lot of issues with water scarcity, and as you may have heard, the declining levels of water in our rivers. So, and so we need to change this in order to actually improve all of the climate issues, because this is actually impacting the lives, particularly the life of our city and our province, Santa Fe. So we have to work together, and cities are used to developing cooperation networks. We need this, and I'd like to thank, for the organization of the World Summit, because this encourages us to actually move towards circular economy. Pablo Hapkin, who's the mayor of the city of Rosario. Now I'll give the floor to actually tell the other mayors to think of possible questions. So for example, questions from Curitiba to Santa Fe or Tucla to the other municipalities. We'll give the floor to Ulpiano Suarez, who's the mayor of the city of Mendoza. Ulpiano, the floor is yours.
Ahí vamos a escuchar el audio. Adelante, por favor.
Bueno, buenas tardes, Guillermo. Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, Guillermo. Good afternoon, all my colleagues who are here. Thank you, Martin, for being the host and for this initiative of organizing this summit and taking the words of Guillermo. Welcome, and you have set the bar really, really high. Thanks for the collaborative work among the cities, and welcome to this common agenda. In view of the problems that we face, I'm going to share now a presentation. I don't know if you can see this.
Ahí ya lo ponemos al aire. La presentación de Ulpiano Suárez.
We are going to see now
su charla.
Mr.
Vamos a ver las
Suárez's
iniciativas de la ciudad de Mendoza.
presentation, we're going to hear about the city of Mendoza. We already heard about Curitiba, Rosario, Córdoba,
Y vamos a ir pensando preguntas
Santa Fe.
para ir compartiendo con ustedes.
And we're going to think about some questions that we would like to ask to the speakers.
Ya está al aire.
We can see your presentation now. You talked about the city of Mendoza. Well, we're capital city of our province. We contribute with 18% of the GDP in Mendoza. Our economic matrix is based mostly on sales, on services, on tourism. We're at the heart of the metropolitan area called Great Mendoza, the fourth region most important in the country. But to talk about circular economy, I wanted to say something about the important data that we have. The population of Mendoza, 120,000 people, but also the phenomenon of something that happens in each one of the cities. It's the metropolitan area population that come into the city. In the case of Mendoza, it's more than 200,000 people coming into the city to work. And if we talk about circular economy and these changes that are so needed, I wanted to share this environmental information. In our last measurement of greenhouse gases emissions, we have 34.86%, 50% in the way we move, and 14% of the urban trash that we produce. And that has to do with the social information, that in the last information, 44% are under the line of poverty, and 8.2% are unemployed. That's why I said, okay, I talked to the neighbors in the city, we need to have a triple impact, looking for a balance between social inclusion, environmental preservation, and I really think that it's key for the local governments to have in these key issues. On the one hand, inequality, poverty, and employment, and on the other hand, climate change and the need to be change agents, as someone said before. On this slide, you can see something that was mentioned before. In a short period of time, we have been able to surpass the load of our system. We have exhausted the resources that we generate by having this way an environmental default. And our main management access, I wanted to highlight our new comprehensive solid trash collection, that it collects 15% of the greenhouse gases emissions here in the city. And that's why we have this differentiated collection. Dry recyclable assets are collected on Thursday, and that has a previous approach that has to do with the neighbors. The neighbors have to separate Mondays, Thursdays. We withdraw the wet trash, and the green trash are collected on Mondays, and Tuesdays and Thursdays we don't do collection. This is integrated with 43 green points that are set in each point of the city where neighbors can bring their dry trash, and that's where the neighbors put all the plastic. And the love bottles or eco bricks, we will see that those eco bricks are then used as a resource to go back into the productive system. This new management solid urban trash system allows us to share these results. We have increased 2,000% recycled material compared to the previous situation. This started in June last year. We have recovered 500,000 kilograms of material that have been reintroduced in the market. We see in this slide, it's mostly cardboard, glass, plastic, metal, cardboard boxes, and most of all, to talk about the social impact that all this process generates, because we recover this dry material, this recyclable material, through a cooperative of urban recovery, and this gives support to more than 50 families. Apart from that, the productive matrix and the economic matrix of the city has the foundations on the economic sector. We work together with the Cuyo University in environmental guidelines for good practices, also for the food industry, and we had to pay special attention to organic trash that the food industry generates. That's why we started with a pilot test of worms, that those organic material or trash is collected by the government. It's moved to a biofertility place that processes that trash using worms, and part of the product that is produced there goes back to the city and is used as compost in squares. But part of that organic material that we also produce that is sold by that company to be used in different vineyards and farms. Another project that I wanted to share with you is linked with this new solid trash collection system, is a triple impact enterprise, young people who were incubated here in the city of Mendoza. All the plastic that is collected by people in the city, the plastic that neighbors take to these green points, the plastic that they take to each one of those loops, they're separated and they are recycled by entrepreneurs that transform that plastic into plastic wood used for signaling, for construction. More than 70 tons of plastic material in the city has been used to signal 150 units in different public spaces. But that's not all. Agriculture is very important in the province of Mendoza, and these young entrepreneurs, with the plastic that they collect and that they are provided with from the city, they are making poles for the vineyards. If you have visited the vineyards in Mendoza, you will see that those posts, those poles are made out of wood, but now they're made out of plastic, 100% recycled plastic, without using water, but most of all, preventing the deforestation. So it's a win-win. We avoid the deforestation of hundreds and thousands of trees. So that implies 300 trees for every hectare of vineyards. Imagine 65,000 hectares of vineyards in Mendoza. So this is a clear example, a clear process of circular economy. And we also other projects that are linked with the production of food. According to the UN, 1/3 of the food production is lost or wasted, and that food waste results in 8% of greenhouse gas emissions, which is, okay, let's explain that with apples. This is to contribute from the local aspect to reduce food waste. And based on this circular economy concept, we were able to recover tons of food, most of all fruit, that were good for consumption, but they were not good for selling them in the local or global market. So we transform that fruit before they become waste, and that way we have a double impact, and triple impact, in fact, economic, social, and environmental. With this process, let's explain it with apples, we were able to recover 6 tons of local production fruit, apples and pears. It says let's explain it with apples, but we use pears affairs as well. So we make jam. People worked and were trained in order to produce this jam made out of pears and apples. And then we created the notes for social impact. So we strengthen this process of circular economy with these groups of people that form these nodes. And to conclude, I'd like to share everything that was said. The challenges that we have account for a scenario where the local governments, we have to become the main characters. We have to bring into our cities the commitments, the national commitments and the global agreements, and because we are more efficient when it comes to acting and producing things in the territory. Going from the traditional linear economy to the circular economy, it's a one-way street. There are no options. It's unthinkable to have any economic development for the resources to be badly used. So I celebrate, I congratulate you, I thank the city of Córdoba for organizing and for having this initiative, and I hope this summit is a real milestone on this one-way street towards sustainable development. Thank you very much. Very clear. Thank you very much, Upiano Suárez, Mayor of the City of Mendoza. Now we'll hear from the last speaker, and then we'll have the Q&A session. So we heard in Brazil, in Santa Fe, Rosario, Mendoza, and now we go to Mexico.
Presidenta municipal interina de Tuxtla Gutiérrez, México. Qué gusto saludarte.
It's a pleasure to meet you, the mayor of Tuxtla in Mexico. Carla. All right, we're going to show a video, and then I'll continue with my presentation. Tires collection. Shredding band. Belt, shredding belt. Tire shredding. Shredded tires. So first of all, thanks for the invitation to participate in this summit. I'm very honored to be able to talk about my city. I wanted to tell you that what you have just seen is just a little example of what we were able to do, or what we have been doing to recover our city. Tuxtla Gutiérrez is the capital of Chiapas state, located in the southeast of Mexico, and it's a city that is in rebirth. After a very dark moment, very dark times, with no participation from the people, but also from the responsibility that we have in this city. And what we did is, since we stepped into office, is to make people aware and make ourselves aware as administrators and as citizens of Tuxtla Gutiérrez, not to lose sight that everything that making the right decisions would help us approach the problems that our city was facing. So we will have a constant image of people, tires, 40,000 tires were the tires that we were able to recover. We had a comprehensive campaign, and they challenged us to be the first cities with because we had a series of illnesses related to the dengue mosquito, Zika and chikungunya mosquito. As public health, from the public health standpoint, we were a hotspot, and it was mostly produced by not being aware on how to manage urban solid waste. So what we have done in this recovery of Tuxtla is to tell people, to make them aware that solid waste is produced by all of us living in Tuxtla Gutiérrez, and it depends on us what we do with that, with those solid waste. And to become a sustainable city, we needed to collect the solid waste and make it our own. So we explained our people that trash, when it comes to placing it in the public spaces, it belongs to all of us. We are responsible for that trash, so we needed to have responsible actions, and that led us to realize that we had great advantages that we have as a city and the added value that Tuxtla has. I wanted to tell you that Tuxtla Gutiérrez is a city that has different areas that are considered natural reserves. We have a plain that is very important, that is very rich in its flora and fauna, and that it's singular to our country, and that also, because we're the capital city, makes us have a green area with flora and fauna that we lost track of how important that was. And we lost, with invasions and everything, the solid waste in that area was what we found the most. So we have a comprehensive program called Let's Clean Tuxtla, and in this comprehensive program, we engaged all the citizens. One day, everybody goes out to clean the city. One day, we clean our houses. We visit the landfill spaces. Another day, we plant trees. Another day, we make compost, and we build this comprehensive program that entrepreneurial families, among their sales strategic plans, they can also start and be responsible families, responsible with the environment. I wanted to also tell you that one of the things that we underwent in Tuxtla Gutiérrez, we had trash in every corner, and lots of trash. And that's why during the rainy season, we had floods, we had risky situations. We put everybody on alert, and that's why we decided to start this program. We placed containers in different corners in every neighborhood and in every colony of our city. We, that way, became aware, and each colony became aware as to how much we had to do with the number of tons that we produced in terms of trash. So with that, we wanted to make people aware that we all produce trash, that we are all responsible for what we expand as urban image. And we don't want to give that negative image. And we made people understand, and we made them see how important environmental protection was. And we invited everybody to participate. After that, in the development of this summit that we're going to have, I'm sure I'm going to be able to let you know more details of what the city is doing. And this, as I said, this city is in rebirth, and we have many dreams ahead, many dreams to come true. Some of them I can see it by having my participation in this beautiful summit, but we also think that in this rebirth, we will be able to find the right people and to educate the people who live here. And that will help us with all the comprehensive programs so that the urban solid waste are well managed and that we become that reference city and that sustainable city that we so long. But with this exchange of ideas, information, this dialogue, I think it fills us up with hope, and it helps us with having a firm, blatant idea in order to advance towards that those dreams. So I'd like to thank Martín for being host. And I want you to know that we are City of Mexico presenting in the summit, and Tuxtlan Gutierrez is happy to show what we have been doing in our administration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carla. And we are also, we also have Horacio Rodríguez Larreta, who is the mayor of the city of Buenos Aires. Horacio, welcome. Thank you, Guillermo. Thank you, Martín, for the invitation. These are ways to actually stop our routine and actually reflect upon things, to share experiences, to see what other cities are doing. There's a lot to learn, particularly regarding these issues. These new issues, I would say, more, new topics, new issues that are being discussed. I think that it's wonderful to be able to exchange what other cities have implemented, so probably adapting things that are being implemented in other cities, particularly because of the pandemics. I mean, because of the pandemics, we need to rethink our cities. The other day, I was asked about the concept of a city, whether the concept of city actually became obsolete because people were choosing to live in outside cities. It'll never be obsolete. I think we need to rethink the concept of city, to rethink educational supply, cultural, supply. I think this is really unique in cities. I think we need to rethink the things we can need to offer as cities in terms of welfare. But I don't think cities will become obsolete because before the pandemics, there was a migration of people from rural areas to urban areas. And so this is a good thing because it reduces the impact of on the environment, which is actually pollution. People traveling from rural areas to the urban areas. So high-density cities are actually becoming, or have the opportunity to become, efficient cities. And so we need to rethink, we need to adapt ourselves. I think we're having at least 3 trends, I would say. And one of the things is teleworking. So we are having, the micro centers of cities are our desert areas. And I think this is happening all over the world because people are not traveling to the city centers. So we're rethinking these places, we can reuse offices, how to turn office buildings into places where people can actually live. So we need to actually rethink, as I'm saying, these places. And this is one of the first challenges. Another challenge is to build what everybody calls the 15-minute city. So people are actually living closer to their jobs and where they have their daily activities. So if they want to go to a stadium, they are really close. If they want to go to a park, they're close. Entertainment places, movies, etc. Everything is really very, very close. So these cities actually become very efficient in terms of energy use, and this is being done. I mean, we're working in this regard in Saavedra, in Barracas, in different regions in the city of Buenos Aires. And the third trend or third challenge is to use public spaces. We have a lot of spaces in our cities where we can actually use basically all year round because of our climate, so we can, use streets and, having restaurants and using the streets and using public places. So this actually makes cities more lively, and so this would actually transform the welfare of our cities because people are willing to enjoy cities. So we need to rethink, as I was saying, our cities. We need to actually go deep into these trends and actually transform our cities, because the reality is that global warming is creating such a big changes in our lives. So we really need to make changes. We really need to think. And the biggest emitters of gases are greenhouse gases are cities. So we need to reconsider, reshape, rethink our cities. And one of our challenges and one of our goals is to have CO2 neutral cities. And for this, we have actually launched a program to be able to meet this objective. And we're working on, for example, what we call healthy mobility, the use of bicycles, and as a result of the pandemics, which we've been able to actually foster this program by building different biking areas or bike paths in the city of Buenos Aires. The old sidewalks and bike paths have been transformed. Also, the use of public transportation, because fewer and fewer people are using public transportation. So we're using these spaces to promote other kinds of mobility. And another project we're working on is in the creation of green areas or green spots. We have new areas in the city for people to actually use these public spaces. We're transforming these places. And also we are working on the recycling program. So we have a lot of the households now that are selecting their garbage. So this is an ambitious objective we have. We are halfway, actually, and we're working very, very hard in this sense. We have built 5 recycling centers. We have, for example, all of the construction waste plants. We're collecting over 5,000 tons. We also have plastic collection centers, also organic waste plants, and we are actually also promoting a communication educational program so that all of the neighbors of our city are actually aware of this. And so we want to have recycling centers, what we call the green belts, these recycling centers that we're putting them close to the neighborhood so that everybody has access to these recycling centers, or recycling spots. We call them green spots. We are also, we participate in the world forums, and we also share best practices. I think this is really essential. So this is why I think that this World Summit is really, really essential. We're also reducing the use of plastic. For example, supermarket plastic bags that created so much waste, and now we now have people using different kinds of bags to go to the supermarket. So again, I'm so grateful for this initiative from Cordoba, so that we can actually have, particularly the largest cities of our country, to have priorities regarding these issues, to preserve our environment. Thank you very much, Martin, for the invitation, for the initiative. You can count on our support, and anyone that has good experiences in their cities, we should share these new ideas, and we'll do the same. If we have good ideas in our city, we want to share this. This is actually the point. Thank you again, Martin, for the invitation. Horacio Rodríguez Larreta, who is the city of Buenos Aires, thank you very much for your participation. And you talked about River Plate, which is one of the soccer teams that I'm a fan of. We have very little time, but let's go to the questions. From Córdoba to Rosario, Martín to Pablo. Two questions. First, I think Horacio mentioned something that has to do with planning our cities. So we want to plan, for example, the bike paths. And what about Curitiba? Curitiba has always been at the forefront. I know that they have implemented a lot of these initiatives. I'd like to know what they're planning, their future plans. And Pablo talked about workers. what they call recoverers. We have important companies that are investing on recovery, and an initiative that they are working on in Rosario that is taking everything we collect and then to auction what is collected. I mean, as we collect a high volume, so we've been able to increase the price of sale, and so this money then goes back to the recoverers or the workers. And this, two key questions, Pablo. What is the initiative that you're working on? And a question to the mayor of Curitiba. This is, the question is about, city planning. What are the plans for the future? So first from Rafael.
A ver, Rafael, tu respuesta.
What is your answer? The city of Curitiba, the planning goes back to 1965, and this was always done. I mean, all of the mayors have been involved in this city planning. I was a mayor before,
em lugar do alcalde Jaime Lerner, que agora já se foi, já não está vivo. Pero sempre em Curitiba mantenemos
we've always kept urban planning, I mean the same urban planning along these years. The goal, I mean, we want to achieve zero emissions by 2030. I mean, we want to reduce 30% of the bus fleet, 200 kilometers of bike paths by the next, by 2024. This is when I leave office. So we have this very ambitious mobility plan, and also and this is also connected to circular economy. For example, we recycle waste with 23 cities that are close to Curitiba. So the whole of Curitiba, I mean, all of the 700 neighborhoods of Curitiba are eco neighborhoods. And the goal is to have a city that is moving forward to sustainability. And we started working on this in 1965, and we will continue with this goal. So continuity is very important. Pablo? I think they're working in similar lines. I mean, we want to move forward in that is in terms of how we put together the chain and how we participate as a municipality. So we're working, for example, in tires and construction waste. And we want to have, for example, tire waste to be transferred to concrete plants. But Martin asked us about the sale changer, the trade chain.
muy poquito tiempo, pero a ver,
We have
pregunta
very,
de
very
Emilio
little
Jatón,
time.
de Santa
A
Fe
question from
para
Emilio
Ulpiano Suárez de
Jatón
Mendoza.
to
Acá te
Ulpiano
desafío,
Suárez
colega periodista.
from Mendoza.
Pregunta de Emilio Jatón, de Santa Fe para Ulpiano Suárez de Mendoza. A ver.
Ulpiano, the question is, if you have state policies such as the ones from Curitiba, do you have similar policies in Mendoza? A lot was said about the need for planning, I mean, to plan the growth of cities, particularly in Latin America, where 85% of the population live in cities. And in our experience in Mendoza, where the province was the first province to have an urban planning, and also municipalities have developed what we call territorial planning. And the work we've been doing on the another program we have that has to do with climate change. And as Horacio said, the 15-minute city that Horacio talked about before, that is having cities offering everything within reach. And also to think about not only the cities but the neighboring territories. And for the city of Mendoza, for example, it's very important what happens in the Piedemonte region that is close to our city, or what happens in what we call the manufacturing belt or the production belt. So we want to be in contact with these neighboring communities. So we are developing city planning. We need we launched what we call an urban reactivation program so as to create jobs.
Clarísimo.
And so we don't want, I mean, the idea is we don't want to have a disorganized growth of the city. And so this is why we're working together with the smaller communities. Carla, do you have any conclusions, anything you'd like to say? We believe and we're confident that we need to have an urban plan in place. We're working in this regard so as to have a specific, so to speak, instrument or legal instrument such as an urban planning system, so that all of the administrations can use this urban city or this urban plan, because we need to consider the city in the long term. So we need to create this sort of system or this instrument so we can actually deal with city planning in the future. And we need to, of course, build responsibility to create accountability in terms of urban waste, and to reuse urban waste, and also involve all of the cities that are close to our municipalities. So we need, as cities, to create a solid platform or network so as to actually support and help the neighboring cities. And we can't do this if we don't, where we can see that we're all working together to improve our cities, our planet, and to actually preserve it for future generations. Thank you to all of the participants. This session has been recorded so that this actually probably the future generations can listen to this in the future, so they can actually know that this was discussed before. This is just the beginning of the World Summit on Circular Economy. If this is the beginning, let alone what is coming up for today and tomorrow. From the city of Córdoba, we're hosting the World Summit of Circular Economy 2021.
Natalia, ha llegado un momento muy esperado a esta Cumbre Mundial de
Natalia, we've come to this important moment in this Circular Economy Congress. That's right, because we are going to get to meet the winners of Ideathon. It's a competition that tries to apply circular economy to specific actions. From this marathon, there were more than 400 people from all provinces in Argentina, and today we're going to show you what that is. And for the first winning award, we have the presence of Martín Charzora, together with the vice mayor of our city, Daniel Pacerini. Both of them are going to hand in the award. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank all of those who participated in Ideathon, that put all of their effort, creativity, and innovation to impulse circular economy. Daniel, you can introduce the winners. Thank you, Martín. Very happy, very proud to be in this very important moment in this summit, especially because we're going to introduce two women who won this Ideas Marathon. It was a creativity record and thriving for circular economy. And I'd like to invite the winners to come to the stage. So we'll call them Verónica Rabarotto, Mariana Zapetti, two of the women who make this team that have created this project called Discardala. Please place your masks. The pandemic continues. This is symbolic, a symbolic check. It's 100,000 Argentine pesos for this first prize. Thank you. Congratulations. This is the picture. Thank you so much for this initiative. Tell us a little bit about what it is. Descartela is a team of 6 women from Córdoba and La Pampa. We're going to recover the textile waste, and we are going to transform it into a triple impact recovery solution, giving jobs to different cities and different people. Congratulations. It's been a very important marathon, not only because of the amount of projects, but also because of the quality. Descartela, congratulations. It's an honor for us to give you this award. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. And let's continue now. We are in the World Summit of Circular Economy 2021. Dilemma here. there is no communication, says nothing communicates. If we don't talk about circular economy, then that means that we're not interested in. If we are talking about circular economy, that means that the topic is in everybody's agenda. We have the opportunity to learn about this. That's right. Topics and questions that we will surely have answers for when we share the next panel in which we're going to start talking about circular economy as the new paradigm, opportunities, experiences, and challenges. The moderator of this panel is one of the great journalists in Argentina. She's here with us, Cecilia Bufflet. She is a journalist specialized in economy and research, and she's right now working with Jorge Lanata in Periodismo para Todos, a show that is broadcasted in Channel 13. She's also a columnist of Crónica of Unannounced Afternoon by Nelson Castro in the Rivadavia radio station, and Rivadavia Somos Nosotros, a program on economic affairs. She's author of 2 books, Wallets Are from Mars, and Economy in High Heels, edition B from 2013. Very interesting titles for those books. And the speakers from Argentina, Sergio de Verosky, Secretary of Environmental Control and Monitoring in the National Administration; from the U.S., Mike Oliveira; from the Helen MacArthur Foundation; and from Europe, Slendy Diaz, Circular Economy Institute. Cecilia, welcome. The floor is yours. Thank you so much for this presentation, and thanks everybody for being there. We're going to talk about economy, cities, innovation, opportunities, and most of all, we're going to talk about the challenges of that circular economy is faced with. We've already had a presentation from the speakers, so let's start talking about that informally and giving this topic as much relevance as we can. I'd like to start with Sergio. Sergio is the local reference in this panel, and Sergio, in this first presentation, we would like you to talk about the challenges in Argentina and the opportunities at national level for circular economy. Hi, Cecilia. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for the invite. I'd like to greet everybody, and most of all to Martín Zarzuela and his team for being so brave to summon this type of summit and to discuss issues related to circular economy, not from the abstract point of view, but on the daily administration, which is, I think, what it's all about. When we talk about circular economy, we should think about 3 options. We have 3 options to discuss that. We can talk about the technical definition that we all repeat by heart. We can talk about the ideology standpoint. What is the way we can produce? Is it non-sustainable, like the one that brought us here today in the 20th century? Or if we can go to a different model, or maybe the least acceptable, we can think of a magic wand that just by saying what we think about circular economy, we're going to solve all the issues that are related to trash, raw material, and most of all, the logic of closing a cycle. Argentina today does not only have a challenge or opportunities in terms of circular economy, but I think it has severe demands. And those demands are, and I can say it because I know as Deputy Secretary related to solid urban waste in the country, that challenge, that demand is based around a certain, which is 5,000 landfill spaces in Argentina. Landfill spaces, open sky, not as a legal or hidden thing, but as a result of the bad management of urban waste, and bad management that in many cases results in, directly, I think, in not having had public policy at federal level and haven't pushed the cities in a way to solve issues for things that they don't have the technical capacity or the funds to do it by themselves. In Argentina, the problem of waste is the tip of the iceberg of the solution. As I said, waste is the beginning of the solution of circular economy. The problem of waste has been characterized incorrectly, and it has been placed geographically in the cities when clearly it's an environmental issue for Argentina as a whole, and it's perhaps the main environmental issue that Argentina needs to face, and we have to face it as such, with public policies that are with logic of a solution to attain the common good, and not only think about the specific solution. As long as we approach this solution for the better of the greater good, the people in this country will be affected by that issue, by that problem. And the solution has to do with applying public policies in the framework of circular economy. And that way, the solution that we find will be found after many years of not having found a clear solution. Excellent, Sergio. Sergio, we're going to hear now the first words from each one of the speakers, and then we are going to start the debate and the Q&As. So I'd like to hear from Mike now to see what he thinks about this topic. I think we have a video first. So let's take a look about the video that his foundation prepared. We are creators. We revolutionize the world. The Ice Age, the Bronze Age, the Industrial Age. We build without no limits.
We are throwing an awful lot of electronics, plastic, food, carpets, clothing away. It's a waste of precious materials.
But now we are rethinking progress and watching beyond.
If we could build an economy that would use things rather than use them up, we could build a future that really could work in the long term.
We are eliminating waste from the design point of view.
Can be taken apart once the consumer has finished using them.
You remanufacture it and give it out again. You can reduce your production costs hugely if applied correctly.
We keep materials in use.
Landfill companies can repurpose it, reuse it, making profit out of their waste.
Regenerating natural resources.
And bring it back in the form of nutrients.
It's very much a natural cycle.
We use 70% less water in conventional agricultural methods. Now our packaging is not a waste, it's something that we can
It's better.
We redesign everyday products to make them fully recyclable. We farm as close to nature as is possible.
So it makes sense.
Targets to use 100% sustainably sourced materials.
There is a lot of conversation about not buying clothes, but different models where you can rent clothing.
We develop fully modular headphones that we offer on a subscription basis.
The circular economy itself is inevitable in my view.
It's not one fix, it's about the entire system being redesigned.
This is, to me, the only way to fight climate change, to fight pollution, to fight waste.
This is a business model that stacks up.
Global companies cannot survive in the future without transitioning towards a circular economy. That is a really exciting future.
All right, Mike, so we'd love to hear from you now and to know a little bit about how much of what we've seen in this video of Ellen MacArthur Foundation is the future, is a dream, and how much of that is happening now, and it's very close to becoming a reality. Hi, everybody. Good morning, and thanks for having us in the foundation. It's an honor to be here with you. Honestly, our mission as foundation is to accelerate transition towards a circular economy. Right now, we are in a transition phase. What does that mean? It means that we are thinking, we are redesigning the way we produce, the way we create a more regenerative economy, and how to transition towards a circular economy. Our mission is to work with governments, academia, to build this economy, to make it more regenerative, and always taking design into account as a key element to impulse economy. As you probably know, and as you saw in the video, our economic model right now is based on extracting, wasting, producing, and as Sergio said, that is reaching its limit of capacity, and we need to change into circular economy because it's a very attractive alternative to define growth, focusing on benefits for the whole society, not just to take a look at waste management, but to also think about a better society, a more resilient society. Most of all, in these times of day that we are facing this pandemic, how can we rethink economic models, business models based on a circular economy? Basically, it implies to dissociate the economic activity from the finite product consumption and eliminating the waste from the design phase. When we talk about circular economy, we always talk about it being based on creating economic capital, economic and social, but based on three principles for us. Three principles, design principles. First, designing a new business model, eliminating waste, contamination from the design, maintaining products and materials in their highest value, and regenerating natural systems. And that's what we're working on with several organizations and with several cities and governments in Latin America to transition towards circular economy and to make that transition a reality. What I can tell you, it is happening now, and there is a lot of will, a lot of work put on it, a lot of potential in our regions, in our countries. For instance, how to maintain our university, our natural resources from the circular economy, and how to be the example for other places around the world. We have unique pieces, unique raw materials, and that can inspire other cities. Sometimes we don't realize it, but this is the time, this is the moment. I work with many cities in Latin America, and in those cities, they're trying to make a change, trying to implement circular economy as something that is super important, especially after the pandemic, and to create new jobs, to create a city that is more feasible and more for the people, a city where everybody can make a better living and have better quality of life. So I see circular economy as something asystemic. What we have to bring about is conditions that facilitate the systemic approach, reformulation of environmental rules, local adequate rules, leadership, for instance, getting quick feedback of that systemic change, and financing or funding. I think that, in a few words, I think this is the time for Latin America to raise those issues, and the efforts are happening now. I see lots of efforts so that Latin America becomes more circular, and an example of that is the coalition. We have now a coalition of circular economy in Latin America formed by several countries. This coalition, it's making a vision for everything for the whole continent, with each one with its particular aspects. What's key for our region, For example, biodiversity, universities, industries, popular knowledge in their countries of their people, and creating a common outlook of circular economy. I think that's the long answer. That's the long answer.
I have a lot of questions in mind, but I would like to continue with the next presentation by Slendy. There's a video, I think, from the Circular Economy Institute. So first, let's take a look at the video, and then we'll listen to Slendy Diaz. My name is Slendy Diaz. I'm a civil engineer. I'm the founder of Activist. I've been in circular economy for 6 years in industrial symbiosis, and I'm also a conference speaker. As a lecturer, I was able to identify how people and institutions are ready to make the transition from linear to circular economy, but still don't know how to do it, when to start, and know the challenges and opportunities. As an activist, Activist was created actually to do that, to help people understand better how they can actually make this happen in their value chains, in their production units. And for this, we developed circular economy training programs. We participate in academic events. We work in forums, conferences, and we work with institutions, colleagues, and teams to be able to make the steps and make the transitions towards circular economy possible. In addition to the experience I have, it's also very important to learn this learning curve, this knowledge, to entrepreneurs and companies to help others identify possible solutions, tools, and also and nurture these conversations and dialogue. From Activist, our job is to, we created a digital magazine, so everybody has access to this information, thereby accelerating transition from a linear to circular economy. So, Slendy, could you tell us about your vision? Well, this is what we do from Activist, and we work very much because circular economy has to reach all of the levels. And from Ellen MacArthur Foundation, their work has been really significant because one of the things that they've been able to achieve is to have circular economy. They brought circular economy into public policies and politics. And so we were speaking with Mike before the panel. They were able to bring, for example, circular economy to Africa. So it's important to filter down, and the Circular Economy Institute also help us do this. To bring this knowledge to professionals. If you want to have a circular economy, we need an industry, circular economy in the industry. So we need to have the people trained, and this is our goal from the Circular Economy Institute. So we want to train professionals so that they can actually integrate everyone. So, because we need to also to have a very good understanding to be able to reduce waste. to reach people. I mean, to be able to communicate this in simple terms to communities, so everybody becomes aware of the importance of circular economy. In a way, we want to bridge this gap because citizens are really willing to adopt circular economy, but they don't know how to do it, how to get involved. They see sustainability as an issue that has to do with experts, and we want this to be an everyday issue. Everybody has to be involved. Everybody has to know how to do and develop circular economy. So this is why we want circular economy to trickle down all of the levels, so it reaches all of the people, and in this way we'll be accelerating the transition. And waste management is one of the biggest challenges, and the amount of waste has to do with a lack of understanding. That's why, at the Institute we play a key role, because education is really a key change agent. So we need to, we are facing three main challenges we need to deal with. First, the damage that has been induced to our environment, so we need to revert this damage, to reverse this damage. And we also need to preserve natural resources and make it sustainable, so that indigenous communities and communities in general can sustain and preserve the environment. For example, the migration of people from the rural to urban areas, and we want ecosystems to give people opportunities for them to actually remain in the rural areas and become really, to really fight for the ecosystems, and to develop business models that are built upon preservation. And another challenge is water. When people speak about climate change, think about probably trees and forests, and preserving that. But water, the water resource is really very important. So we probably are not aware of all of the damage that is being caused. So we need to be able to comprehensively, or to join our efforts and continue educating. Thank you, Slende. Very interesting. We'll now move on to some questions. I have some questions for all of the panel. I'd like to begin with Sergio and Mike about the challenge of developing economies and poor economies, because they're always faced with this dilemma. There's always pressure to encourage the economy and the development of growth through consumption, and oftentimes this clashes against the idea of circular economy and the accountability in terms of consumption. So I would like you to listen to you both discuss this idea. How do you prevent, so to speak, this clash of ideas or needs, particularly in less developed economies? I think it's a wonderful question, very interesting question. We run the risk of making certain concepts synonymous and or using some qualifying adjectives negative. I mean, consumption is not necessarily bad for the environment. I mean, consumption can be and has to be, must be a desirable component that has to do with the welfare of the population. If we want to have a more sustainable society from the environmental perspective, if we do this opposing consumption, this is wrong. I mean, we need to focus on the type, what kind of consumption, not consumption itself, but what type of consumption we are encouraging and what type of consumption we believe can be beneficial for the economy and the environment. It is true. Consumption is mainly related to a post-war custom, because the strategy of growth, mainly of capitalist countries in the Cold War and as part of the dispute with the socialist bloc, the idea was that through consumption everything could be achieved. And this resulted in the qualification of consumption as something that is allegedly wrong. And this led to irrational hyperconsumption, and this actually becomes an obstacle to develop a circular, sustainable economy. So the point is, I insist, what type of consumption we are proposing. If we say that consumption is the way to solve economic issues and economic welfare of countries, then consumption should actually contain, for example, in a product, 90% of the material that is actually that goes to waste is not proper consumption. This is actually a wrong consumption. There are studies that show that the United States, for example, certain products contain almost 80 to 90% of something that is of that which is purchased and then becomes waste 72 hours after the purchase. That is not consumption. This is actually producing trash. And we can clearly imagine or sort out consumption mechanisms that are connected or that are in alignment with circular economy. So as long as we know exactly what we consume has to be consumed. And so we can, distinguish this, the product from marketing and packaging that does not really meet the needs of the society, but the needs of those that are in charge of the market. When we speak about consumption and the rationale of the market, there's a statement from Pope Francis that says that the public welfare has to be subjected to the interests of the market. And in terms of consumption, understanding consumption as that which actually drives the improvement of a society and favors the needs of its inhabitants, clearly we're speaking about common welfare and not the interests of the states. And I think that is the difference. So this is why I'm not in favor of rigid dichotomies, consumption and environment, as if consumption was actually against consumption, or production and environment, as if production couldn't actually coexist with the environment. I think that the big issue, and with this I conclude, that we need to design a paradigm shift from the concept, from the perspective of concept, because we are deeply immersed in a 20th century paradigm that understand that progress is also only possible by paying a very high cost in terms of environment. And this is not necessarily so. And if it were so, then we are forced to change it. It's a big cultural challenge. Mike, what do you have to say about this, considering the region and the work you've been doing in our regions? I believe, in addition to what Sergio said, companies that have the capacity to activate, to change different stages of the chain value. So we need to change the design. We need to make circularity something that is common to all of the stakeholders, and we need to combine different models, products, materials, business models, different initiatives, and I believe that the companies need to develop skills and competences in terms of circular economy design, so as to recycle and reuse products, and design requires specific skills. So I believe that there is a lot of responsibility by companies particularly, but there is part of a consumption that should be explored, which is local consumption. How local consumption can actually help develop communities or neighborhoods or cities even, and develop this economy or this economy locally. Or develop, how to exchange, for example, bring what they produce in a particular neighborhood to exchange it and bring it to other neighborhoods, but always working locally, but always aiming at developing or creating opportunities. So I think that there's a dichotomy, but I think big companies should offer products that are circular, because this is not true yet. As I said before, we are going through transition, and this is the time for companies to be able to develop these circular skills and provide products that are circular for all of us. And about what Mike and Slendy said, I'd like to ask Slendy, but then I would like Mike and Sergio to share your views. How do you encourage from the public policies, how do you encourage companies to quickly adopt these concepts?
Thank you for that question. Well, look, what happens is sometimes it's very difficult to be dynamic. We can start, but the start of circular economy is more discretional. I'm the manager of a company, and I have a high sensitivity towards society. And then you have scattered cases. So planning is key, because you send a direct message, clear message. I want for everybody to do this. So first, we need to generate trust. And that will enable us, because policies makes it dynamic, and it also enables financing, and companies need resources. If we have to stop doing business as usual, then we need to innovate. We need to do research. We need, in some cases, we're going to need to transform in terms of technology. So, going back to the beginning, we talked about waste. U.S. is a country that you see a lot of contrast. Is highly consumerism. But the thing is, what does U.S. consume? They consume plastic, single-use plastic. It's a country that do programmed obsolescence, and they demand more resources than the ones they produce locally, so they exhaust resources in other countries. And that's when the problems begin. They even export trash because they are not paid in the source. They export it to the source where they are produced. So the problem is education too, and political will. If U.S. had a better circular economy, then they should focus on San Francisco, one of the most circular cities around the world. But the public policies are very important because whatever they do in public policies will impact finances, will impact on education, it will impact. I'm from Colombia, so we have a national strategy for circular economy. Since the strategy was put in place, everything became more dynamic. Industries became more dynamic, performance improved, and universities are already training students on circular economy. So that's when public policies ratify things. And we were talking about construction. So in that example, we are a step ahead from public policies. We follow all the construction process with circular economy. When the public policies came out, we're already launching a company. So what happened was, okay, the environmental entities came to see from us how we were doing it and how we were working it and how we were managing all the construction material, reused material. So we need those conversations, not the government alone and isolated. We need for the government to have conversations with the academia, and I should also say that the international cooperation institutions that have had a very valuable role for circular economy. And all of this articulates hand in hand with public policies. Could you also mention a couple of the incentives that those public policies have in Colombia? Well, we have plans of producer extended incentives that make the whole chain more dynamic. So when we do this in Colombia through a bank that is called Coldex, the government makes all the incentives, all the economic incentives, impulsing circular economy, and they provide all the tools so that companies that will adopt circular economy tools, they have the resources, they have, for example, the letter of the law, and there are incentives in terms of fees, benefits in taxes. So all that contributes for people to take the risk. Because, well, we understand that these type of changes require investment, so these are benefits in the tax benefits, access to loans, and things like that. All right. Sergio, what can we say about Argentina in terms of incentives to speed up transition in the private sector? Most of all, and I add to what Slendy said, we need active public policies that are specific and not just enunciated or not basically enunciated, because the big problem that we have in Argentina is that in great parts of the world, without a doubt, but in Argentina most of all, is that we cannot break a trend. Each one of the initiatives in terms of circular economy end up being shortened or limited to good programs, pilot projects, good initiatives. Isolated, correct. They're isolated, yes. Yeah, or in any case, they're witness cases. They don't have the specific way to reverse a situation that is severe and dramatic in terms of waste generation, loss of raw material, impact on natural resources, etc., etc. Slendy said, okay, San Francisco may be the most circular city that I've ever known, but San Francisco is an exception. It's not the rule. We have the obligation to develop public policy so that the rule is circular economy and the exception is the linear economy. Clearly, circular economy nowadays is the exception. It's isolated, it's circumscribed to very single things. It doesn't in Argentina, we usually say that that doesn't raise the bar. So what does that mean? Public policies that provide devices to governments, federal governments, national, city governments, state governments, so that all those initiatives end up turning into specific engagements, specific goals, because at the end of the day, what we have is just one initiative from one lawmaker for one thing, or a councilor, city councilor, so that there's an ordinance on something. I don't know, some economic contribution so that one company builds part of this production in a circular way. No. We need, as I said, we need devices, engines, public policies that have goals, commitments, engagements, deadlines, and with all those parts in place, and not to consider that, okay, if we put a law about the use of containers, then we're all happy because we solved the problem of plastic. And Argentina, the Argentinian government, unfortunately, as part of this government, has not been so prone in the last 10, 15 years, regardless of the administration in place or the political party in place, to have or to deploy these active policies. And honestly, we fix our commitment in the Ministry of Environment to change that trend, as we said before. Mike, you have had a chance or an experience in cities and in specific examples. Which examples, virtuous examples of incentives from the public policies to speed up that transformation? There are many things happening in Latin America nowadays. I think we are in a construction phase of those public policies, but something that we need to bear in mind is that it's not only public policies for the outside, but also for the inside. For instance, circular procurement, public procurement, circular procurement in-house, and to have that as an example to show up outside. I wanted to bring an example from Colombia that is very good at national level, but there is another one in Chile. It's in Latin America. It's like a roadmap for recycling plastic. And that is, sorry about the noise, but that is a rather new thing for us here in Latin America. We are working with the city of Buenos Aires, with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, to bring circular economy apart from waste. How can we look at it to help or to support systemic change in other industries, such as the food industry, compost, urban waste? I think then we're going to have some news about what we're going to do with Buenos Aires. We are now in the discussion phase, and with regards to other cities, a policy that is very well advanced. Cities in Latin America that have circular economy policies that are way advanced are, for instance, co-neighborhoods in Bogota. They're planning on how to build new neighborhoods under the circular economy concepts in terms of construction, in job creation, local community energy bars, everything, the 15-minute cities, for instance, and to also bring regenerative urban architecture, new business models in all of these places. So there is a very specific model that is already happening in Bogota. And also São Paulo, very important example to support the generative culture as a way to stop the urban advances and to preserve the biodiversity, green areas, so that the local biodiversity is preserved, and they are paying for ecosystem fees to farmers and technical assistance as to how to do regenerative agriculture for farming. So I think those are two specific examples in which public policies are really helping, and projects are also helping in cities where is demanded. Right, taking into account those needs, knowing what the local needs are, and fitting those public policies so that they don't fall into empty spaces or so that they are not adopted by places that are so different culturally, or so that transition is so important for the process to be successful. Slendy, Mike just talked about regenerative economy. With that capacity of being an educator and as a speaker, the speaker you are, tell us a little bit about what that is, regenerative economy. We have a great business model because circular economy is an opportunity, is an actual opportunity. So Mike talked about regenerative agriculture, for instance. So we know agriculture basically in two different ways: the monocrops in large extensions, or small scale agriculture for the small farmers that have polyculture. So we love organic farming because the traditional agriculture, the main critics that it gets is that 1/3 of the food that is produced goes to waste. So how can we reduce that food waste? Part of the waste is moving food in long distances, so we can start looking at specifically how in America and Africa we have that capacity to produce at local level for the food that we are going to consume. We need to take advantage of that. From the circular economy standpoint, we try to eliminate the use of contaminant substances. So when we create nanocultures, then we need more pesticides. From the regenerative agriculture, if we go back to the original design and the old practices, we can do polycultures that are more resilient to plagues, to climate change. So that is one of the alternatives, one of the choices. And the other one, I am Latin, so I have a big connection with forests and nature. So it doesn't make sense to do deforestation for a monoculture if we can generate lots of productivity in our lands with the natural capital. We also have farmers in our communities. So to take advantage of the biodiversity and to produce business models departing from our Amazon fruits and spice plants, and that way the forest can still stand, and to fight deforestation is to add value and to protect biodiversity. In that way, we would solve many challenges. not only combining the restructuring or the regeneration of typical species, but we will also not need to do monocultures if we're going to do forestation. We can do initiatives to regenerate, very similar to the natural design of the planet. By nature, the planet is biodiverse. If we leave a place quiet, alone, the planet will regenerate spontaneously. And that's how species start growing, and everything starts growing in the order that it needs to grow. After many years, we might even be able to see the forest again. But our advance is so fast. It's not that we don't produce, it's just that first we use the minimum resources possible, and then we're going to co-design. So we need to find raw material from waste for our industry. We need to profit more because at global level, 80% of the products go to landfills or to the rivers. So let's start using that energy and raw materials, and the natural ecosystems will supply food, but we have to do it in a sustainable way so that there is a cap, an environmental cap, even though we want to demand that it has a limited capacity of resources. So as we connect with the planet again and we understand it, we can be more efficient. And something else is that in the reforestation initiatives, the young trees have more capacity to capture the CO2. So we start reversing climate change, we improve quality of the air, and that can be integrated to what Mike said, territorial planning. Public spaces could be a great area when we can have regenerative associations. We can go back and do urban hortages planning for communities, for social rehabilitation processes. Lots of things can be done. First, we need to have faith and to know that environmentalists know that simple solutions are at the tip of our hands, of our fingers, and that they are profitable. Income revenues are generated, and then wondering why not do it.
And to wrap up, because we have 4 minutes, and this is a long day, there are over 6,000 people that are that have signed in. Just some final remarks on what Slendy just said. I mean, the need to culturally own this idea or concept of circular economy. Today, this is mainly focused on the younger generations. What about society? I mean, when do you think when can society actually own this so as to, move forward to this towards this model? Sergio? For the most part, the challenge ahead makes sense as long as we accept that we're really behind. We've been discussing for too long, and discussing, ways out and techniques and models that unfortunately we haven't been able to apply on a daily basis, as we should have done due to the emergency we're going through. I think fortunately, we have this opportunity that is offered by the municipality of Córdoba, and I'd like to paraphrase a political scientist who said that in terms of environmental affairs, there is a paradox because we all know what to do, we are all aware of the solution, but we never have the political subject to carry out. I think we were be expecting to find sort of the limit or some social fear of implementing some practices, or maybe we're not familiar with those models. Somehow it is hard for us to understand how we have gotten to this point, and I mean, there's no feasible continuity in this way. We cannot continue without a circular economy. We cannot continue if we don't drastically reduce greenhouse gases emissions. There's no continuity if we don't stop life extinction or species in life that are extinguished. I mean, there's no continuity, and the point is, if reality would actually strike us with the limit in a dramatic or tragic way, that would likely have a greater vulnerability that are now vulnerable, or we will find that limit. And I think that is the challenge, you know, that point where we actually are able to say stop, and to believe that circular economy is sort of a magic wand, or maybe, and we turn it into a solid practice. I believe that circular economy, and because I'm part of this process, I think that the same thing is happening with sustainable development. In the 90s, when the Brundtland Commission published the book of Common Future, and that stated sustainable development as the solution to our problems. And then we've been for 30 years now, we just trivialized the concept and the consideration that that magic wand would magically lead us to a solution practically with no effort. And then it didn't work. The magic wand did not work. So I would like the same thing to happen to us in terms of circular economy. Thank you, Slendy, Mike, and Sergio, and thank you to all of the participants for stopping and reflecting upon these issues. I think this is the opportunity that this World Summit on Circular Economy is giving us. We'll continue with the next panel. Please stay online. Thank you to the participants.
Estimados participantes, así continuamos con la Cumbre Mundial de Economía.
Let's continue with the World Summit on Circular Economy, and we're working, we're following all of the COVID-19 protocols. We wear masks, and here on stage, even though we're not wearing a mask, we are keeping social distance. It is a wonderful experience for all of us, and for you that are listening to us. We got accustomed to these virtual forums. And we are using this opportunity to stop and think about a circular economy, which has been the way we've gone through in terms of public policies. And to answer to these questions, we'll introduce the next panel, Public Policies Towards Circular Economy. This panel will be moderated by Laura González, who's a local journalist. Laura González has a degree in social communication. She is a columnist in La Voz del Interior, a local paper. She's also an anchor of a program on Radio Mitre, Córdoba, and she's part of the Telenoche, that is a news show in the local TV. So we're in very good hands. And we'll also introduce Juan Carlos Cotto, who's the Secretary of Environment from the government of Córdoba, Jorge Foloni, who's the Secretary of Environmental Management and Sustainability, Municipality of Córdoba. Welcome. Good morning, and thank you for the invitation. Thank you. So let's begin with the presentation, so then we can move on to the Q&A session. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the mayor of Córdoba City and for this invitation to be part of this World Summit on Circular Economy. I'd like to say that from the government of Córdoba, we understand that it's essential to foster circular economy initiatives, and mainly we focus on the drivers. I mean, of circular economy. This is a theoretical concept. We all know about the linear economic system, that it's about extracting, manufacturing, then final disposal. And we are actually we favor and support circular economy, and the main characteristics have to do with benefit in our natural resources, and to enhance circular economy actually helps cooperatives and municipal government that contributes to circular economic development in the province of Córdoba, together with recycling, economic sustainability, and environmental sustainability. And this is also done in conjunction with other government ministries and departments. There will be other speakers in the summit that will be presenting their projects. Córdoba has been for a long time working on public policies related to circular economy. On this chart, you can see Córdoba has different regions that are involved in circular economy, working with their municipalities. The red areas, you can see here we have different centers or plants that are responsible for waste management. And the regions you see in blue are beginning to work, and the regions in green are going to be involved. So we've created over 5,000 tons a day of waste, and we want to enhance circular economy in each of these regions. For 2022, we understand that enhancing circular economy means more recycling, more green jobs, more social inclusion, and so more positive added value.
La Municipalidad de Córdoba a través de su intendente Martín Zarzona.
And to do this, we need to develop strategic partnerships, so we need all of the stakeholders to enhance circular economy. And we want to have SMEs, cooperatives, cities, and local governments. Just a quick survey, over 40 cooperatives that are dedicated to recycling, over 80 regional and municipal plants for garbage segregation, and we have over 2,000 people devoted to recycling, over 500 people in the local government environment, and over 2,000 people connected with informal garbage collection and recycling. And to do this, we're working together with the municipal governments to create a directory of recycling through different actions, such as the elimination of tires that are not being used, the incorporation of circular economy in electronic waste, to strengthen the value chain of each of the waste, and to enhance the cluster of circular economy. Another thing we're doing is to standardize colors, and this is for waste selection and waste segregation. So we want Cordoba to have a common policy, and we want waste to be incorporated into the production chain with a higher value. Cordoba, regardless of the public experience, recycling is an industrial activity. And our private sector is really powerful, and there are many successful stories. For example, 3C Biogas that uses waste, organic waste, and dairy industry waste. Another successful example is the biomass generation that generates energy using wooden chips and peanut shells. Star Plastic is another initiative, and Wholesome. Here, together with this company, we fostered waste generation management. So we're working together with the private sectors because we are aware of one thing, that if we enhance these actions, we can minimize environmental effects, we can manage resources better, and we can reduce CO2 emissions. We know that if we work together with the private sectors, the municipal governments, we will be able to move towards a better sustainable model that uses natural resources in a smarter way and will help us contribute to a more sustainable province. Thank you, Juan Carlos Cotto, who's the Secretary of Environment from the government of Cordoba. We'll give the floor to Jorge Foloni, who is the Secretary of Environmental Management and Sustainability from the local government, the municipality of Cordoba. I was listening to Juan Carlos, and I'd like to highlight something you said about consuming and discarding, the typical linear economy. This is the big challenge we have as a municipality, as a province, as a region. Our mayor, a year and a half ago, was able to see that the way to overcome this big challenge that we have, which is preserving and protecting our planet, has to be done through circular economy. When we took office, there was nothing about circular economy. The city of Cordoba, that is the largest city, one of the largest cities in our country, There were many issues to start with, many issues with garbage collection. So we began to work on improving waste management in order to recover as much waste as possible, and attempting at having the least amount of waste to be disposed in landfills, because a lot of this waste can be transformed. And we saw that in our city there were specific stakeholders that had been working, that were working, but in isolation. There were private companies that were involved with circular economy, but they were doing it isolated, in an isolated way, without the support of the state. There were universities that had some ideas on circular economy, but they did this in isolation, and the state had always been absent. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to explain the over 500 landfills we had in our city, and without no technologies used in landfills, no projects at all from the state to prevent the collapse of landfill or waste management. And today, without a doubt, there's a turning point, because our planet is going through severe consequences. We can see this in terms of climate change, and our mayor was able to see this. And one of the best ways was to leave behind linear economy and move towards circular economy. We needed to create awareness among the citizens, and this is what we did. We did this through different tools, such as the University for Environmental Affairs. We went to the districts and neighborhoods to work with the citizens and neighbors, and we included universities. Universities supported our project, and so we began to work with the private sector to create different opportunities. And I believe that the most important things, just to name a few, is to create the circular economy platform. This platform was called the Cluster on Circular Economy, and this is the first cluster on circular economy in the country, having over 60 companies, the 7 universities from our city, and the cooperativism of our city. As Juan Carlos said, in the province there are over 400 recycling cooperatives. In the city there are 21 recycling centers that had been working but isolated without any kind of support. They didn't have any special equipment, so we from the cluster we encouraged cooperative work. We included universities, and we decided to create the first school of circular economy that was introduced before by Juan Carlos and Juan Cabandier about 3 months ago in our city. Our mayor and his administration understood that institutions had to become stronger, so our mayor created the project created 2 agencies that are important important stakeholders, and the mission is to to conduct circular economy by enhancing the different sectors and articulating the stakeholders that had been working, as I said, in an isolated way. And another agency was created, the Animal Welfare or Animal Protection Agency, because for many, many years there was no agency, no institution that actually provided no controlling body. And so now we have these two agencies that in a way enforce circular economy legislations or projects to reduce the environmental impact caused by waste. So for a year and a half now, our administration has been building Cordoba Circular City, which requires joint work and will continue this working in these lines in the next few years, and we expect that the future mayors will include this in their agendas. Thank you, Jorge Foloni, who's the Secretary of Environmental Management and Sustainability from the municipality of Cordoba. Renzo Morosi is the President of the Agency of Environmental Protection from the city of Buenos Aires. Renzo, good morning.
Sí, perfecto. Perfecto. Bueno, escuchando muy atento, contar desde la agencia, la Secretaría de Ambiente.
From the Agency of Environmental Protection, the city of Buenos Aires, in terms of circular economy, we're developing a program called EcoSeals. With this project, we promote best practices to move forward towards circular economy. We provide different incentives, mechanisms, and this is done mainly focusing on inputs and the reuse, recycling, and the of waste created by companies. We basically want to mitigate the impact that was caused previously, and so we want waste to be reused, so we bring it back to the system. From the agency, we work with special waste. We're working we want to develop different projects, particularly for waste, special waste such as batteries, vegetable oil, for example, that has been used, and the rest of circular economy is being fostered via what we call green spots, and basically we connect the private sector and users, so we know the kind of waste that are needed or that they need, and we conduct special campaigns to collect these waste, and this waste is then given to the entrepreneurs. And the rest of the waste, as I said before, the rest has made a lot of progress in terms of waste collection with cooperatives. We've been able to reduce landfilling up to 50%, and the rest of waste, such as construction waste, green waste, that is managed based on the cooperatives. And we're also developing different legislations that are now in force, and This is how we contribute to circular economy that in the city has become, has become really an important policy in the last 10 years, as opposed to the rest of probably some countries in the world that have been working on this for 20 years. In the last 5 years, then circular economy is part of the public policies in our government.
All right, thank you, Renzo. And after Renzo Morosi, we are the Agency of Environmental Protection of the City of Buenos Aires and the experience of the province of Córdoba, the city of Córdoba, the city of Buenos Aires. Now we're going to hear from Panama. We have online Miliciades Concepción, Ministry of Environment in Panama. Good morning, Miliciades. How are you? Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you. We can hear you perfectly well. Go ahead. Go ahead. You can speak freely. You can start your presentation. For me, it's a pleasure to be here with you in this important summit about circular economy. And as a result, the economic world has a challenge to face production post-COVID. This creates the opportunity to restructure the economic governments in our government and their correlation with the ecosystem and the use of resources. And that is only achieved with sustainability in production and circular economy models to unlink the global traditional consumption of the finite resources. Before the pandemic, we gave the first steps to consolidate policies together with the private companies of a circular economy, which included sensitivity implementation and spreading of strategies and measures that change population in view of channeling circular economies, of course, considering the SDGs, and Objective 11, sustainable communities and countries considered as a turning point to achieve regional sustainability and to reduce the production, the reuse of recycling, and to foster companies to adopt sustainable practices in the public sector, reinforcing implementation of regulations, and to be in agreement with national policies, among other things. What are we doing in our country? Well, the Ministry of Environment that is leading all these projects with the central administration, we have undersigned different agreements with private unions, like the Private Union of Panama, the National Council for Private Companies, and we are forming now a committee for circular economy, which is going to set guidelines, production guidelines that foster sustainable productive processes towards circular economy. We are modernizing the environmental management in the environmental ministry, for example, like the research of environmental impact, guidelines and instructions to develop that focus of circular economy among these instruments in new companies through the environmental impact studies and the environmental audits. In general terms, The goal that we have as a country is to have national policies that are now being written down and to be implemented throughout the national territory. It will be supported by the legal framework that are already being discussed. In a way, this is going to impact the restructuring of consumption and process through environmental education. There are many formal and not formal, informal programs to reduce consumerism that we have in our society now at national level. So in general terms, this is like a photograph of what we are doing in Panama in terms of circular economy. Thank you, Minister. Thank you very much, Milciades Concepcion. We're going to have a round of Q&As now. You mentioned the idea of reducing consumerism, and if there is something that we have seen in the pandemic, there were many objects that we used to buy and that perhaps were not that necessary. And that's the point. If we aim at reducing consumerism, the production sector will say, what do we do with all those jobs? So I'm going to ask you first, Mr. Milciades, how can we do this without impacting jobs? Consumerism is not what we see in terms of what the companies have to offer, but also in the consumption of water and electricity, both in companies as well as citizens or individuals. Indirectly, we should impulse the productive sector so the population reduces the purchase of things, assets that come in packagings like plastic or boxes that are not necessary. In Panama, we have two regulations about single-use plastic or containers. Plastics, for example, from the laundromats or from the dry cleaners. This is not easy. It's not about not purchasing. It's about purchasing in a very responsible way. And for that, we know that the way is circular economy. We know that we need to educate people, and the trend is to buy in places that have labels, and we're working on that too, that have labels, and that's the way to do it. Okay, Renzo Morosi, the city of Buenos Aires. Can you aim at the waste collectors so that local administrations can control that, or do you have a little margin to do so? In the case of the city of Buenos Aires, it's true there is a packaging law, and it's not a success case. In particular, what we're doing through resolutions in 2017, we forbade plastic bags in supermarkets, 500 million plastic bags reduced in a year, and that is a change that is part of our daily things among neighbors. In 2019, we forbade single-use plastic by reducing consumption of 2 million straws, for example, just in food courts in the malls in the city. And this year, we also, for the city of Buenos Aires, we interrupted selling plastic cups or disposable cups. And those are things that we are implementing with the productive sector that clearly is affected, and these are measures that are slowly implemented, but they are successful. And the reality is we have to spread that And with the Ministry of Economic Development, we have to see how we are going to accompany this transformation. These companies, which are not based in Buenos Aires City, they are in Buenos Aires province. So we need to coordinate a strategy of a packaging or a bottle containers law at national level. But with resolutions, step by step, we can have different measures. And what about here in Córdoba? Do we share the same thing? What are we doing in terms of city management? There are many things that we can still do and that we are actually doing. Mostly in our city, we had the problem with the lack of controls and monitoring. So those who generated the most garbage and trash, they didn't manage the trash correctly, and 100% of those of that trash didn't actually do anything, and then people separated their trash, but that trash all went to the same landfill space. And then in our Environmental Protection Agency, we have implemented different resolutions to control all the private trash collection, the transportation of all types of trash, not only urban solids, but also pathogens, hazardous waste. And I think with the proper control agencies and the proper monitoring,